back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Series 6 story, The God Complex, written by Toby Whitehouse and is directed by Nick Horan. Nick Horan had previously directed the Doctor Who story, The Girl Who Waited, which was heavily praised, and so this was a story that a lot of people were looking forward to, as well as Toby Whitehouse, who had previously written stories such as School Reunion, which a lot of people like, and Vampire in Venice, which is another one a lot of people liked. So this story seemed to have every building blocks of a good story. We also have the 1970s hotel aesthetic, giving the story a Shining, the horror film Shining, starring Jack Nicholson. It has that kind of vibe to the adventure. And this is a story which, in terms of the canon of specifically the 11th Doctor, it is kind of important as it sees the beginning of the end for the Ponds. This is a story which essentially starts setting up elements which will play into effect in their concluding story, The Angel Takes Manhattan. With many elements, when you rewatch this, knowing what happens to them it's kind of like, oh my god, I can't believe I didn't spot that when it aired. But as well, in terms of the story arc, there's nothing really here that ties into anything. It's a lot more self-contained, standalone, and I feel like this story heavily benefits from this kind of storyline, that it's really self-contained. You don't need to watch anything before it, you don't need to watch anything after it. You can just watch this story in its own little bubble and enjoy the hell out of it if you can. It's also notable for starring a guest star, mainly David Walliams as playing Gibbous. David Walliams, of course, along with his co-creator Matt Lucas, created the series Little Britain, one of the biggest British sitcoms in the 2000s, and would find more success in Come Fly With Me, a sitcom about airplane travels and stuff like that. And yeah, so David Walliams' appearance in this is kind of a big deal, even though his character here, he's not like a main character by any sense of a word. He is essentially a comic relief character who gains a such much more deeper part of showing the rest of our characters, in a sense, because of how his character is portrayed. It's very interesting in that. But in terms of the audience's reception, this is a story that seemed to have been absolutely loved, absolutely praised when this story first aired. However, over time, it seems to be mostly forgotten about. Most people, it doesn't really get mentioned in a lot of stories unless you're talking about episodes that look really good. Nick Horan, of course, being one of the best directors and showing off his brilliant work in The Girl Who Waited, has a fantastic time at giving a dynamic range to a very mundane setting, the 1970s hotel aesthetic. So it's pretty interesting. But in terms of the overall opinion of it, the mainstream outlet, the story has been kind of forgotten about and is only really mainly talked about for that ending and one scene revolving around the Doctor looking into his room. That makes sense if you watch the episode. I'll explain later. But yeah, it's a shame because I feel like this episode has a lot going for it. I feel like sometimes the story tries too hard to have something going for it. A great example is actually its pre-credit sequence, where we basically established this world as we see this police officer, Lucy. She's going around looking in these rooms. We see a clown, we see a man taking photos, which makes her jump. But then she finds what we consider her room. As we see her talking in her monologue, she's like, I have to find my room. When the others, they found their rooms, that's when it got them, and that's how it took them, and now I've got to find my room. And she finds her room, and you see this massive gorilla costume, guy in a gorilla costume. Apparently it's supposed to be an actual gorilla. If so, that is easily, by far, like not even a question, one of the worst costumes and special effects in the revived era, if not all of Doctor Who. It's beyond funny. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw that. But the idea of the scene, which sets up the idea, is still in play. This character, she finds her room, she sees her greatest fear, only then to start praising a creature, praising this ginormous monster-like entity that storms the hotel. And when they are faced with this, after seeing their greatest fear, after seeing their room, they start praising him. As she states in her monologue, the gaps between her worships are getting shorter, like contractions, and she's kind of getting consumed. She kind of gets mind controlled in a sense to start worshiping, praising, and wants to get killed, wants to be fed from this creature. And that's a really creepy concept, but it's a really strange, eerie concept. And I love this idea. I love the aesthetic, I love the idea, and it's something which, whether the story actually succeeds in the writing department, the concept and the visual style and the appearance of the story more than makes up for anything. And it's got to be one of the better looking episodes of Doctor Who overall. It's got to be up there. It's as well as, it's a Monday. Anybody can film this. Anybody can find a hotel near Butlins or something, a B&B or something, and make an episode identical, if not a split an image of this. But this is something. But Nick Horan gives this story such a vibrant feel. It's got that eerie, The Shining elements of it, but scenes like the dialogue when there's just two characters talking or something. There's a lot of jump cuts. There's a lot of cool angles of our actors. That means that we're never any bored in terms of watching this episode visually. Whether the script is the part or not, that's what we're going to get into. As Dr. Amy Rory essentially arrives straight into this hotel, and they quickly bump into three characters. Rita, played by Amora Karan, sorry if I mispronounced that. She is this sweet, innocent, but still headstrong. She's very quick and sarcastic, but it's never done in a way which, Stephen Moffat usually writes his characters. She seems really likable and really, really sincere about situations. And her interaction with the Doctor, with Matt Smith, are amazing. It seems like the story set her up too much to be a companion, which, knowing the history of the show, it is kind of a shame, because when you know this kind of character gets introduced where the Doctor takes an instant liking to them and is like, right, do you want to become a companion? You can travel with me around. She's not going to make it out of the story alive. It's the same thing with Kylie Minogue's character in Voyage of the Damned. It's that one-hit companion which the Doctor offers the world, only for them to at one point sacrifice themselves for the greater good. But there's also some really great dialogue between the Doctor and Rita. There's a great moment where they're theorising on what's going on, and one of the characters has a theory of conspiracy theories, and the Doctor has, of course, it's aliens because, it's the Doctor. But Rita, because she's a Muslim, I can't remember what it's called, I do apologise, but it's basically the Muslim equivalent of hell. But she keeps strong about it, and she kind of understands it's just a theory at the moment. It was just her idea. She kind of knows that, there's very little evidence to suggest that it is, especially the 1970s aesthetic and Gibbous. But yeah, I don't know, just something really grounded about the character I really like. We also have Howie, played by Damita Lepadus. I'm absolutely butchering that name. Do apologise. But Howie is also... The story has probably one of the best supporting cast in series 6 by far. Howie is this really nervous teenager who lives with his mum and is obsessed in a way with conspiracy theories. In fact, his theory is that they're in Norway, in that the CIA have this bunker. If there's something happens to the world, if something terrible happens to the world, then they're going to send all these rich people into Norway. I love Rory's reaction. It's just like, wow, that's amazing. No, it's amazing how you've come up with an even weirder theory of what's actually happening. I love that line. We also get the concept that, you know, he's kind of nervous around people. He's kind of shy. He's suffering from like a stutter, which he has actually had therapy to not cure himself from, but, you know, to get past by. And when he sees his door later on in the episode, we see that he is fearful of being laughed at by these bunch of teenage girls that, you know, bully him. One of them mentions Klingon, which is a reference to Star Trek, which is really strange because at this point in the marathon series, the Doctor, Amy and Rory have met a Klingon. They've met Lieutenant Worf. They've been to the Star Trek universe. So, yeah, that happened. What's really great is that this character, you know, he feels real. There's this history, there's this backstory. Most, but not all of it, is important to the story. And the stuff that isn't important isn't distracting. It's not taking away anything from the story. This is how a supporting character should be written. And you also have then Gibbous, of course, played by David Walliams, this character who basically he's from a species, I can't remember what they're called, but the species basically have adapted to, they've evolved in a way which they are used to getting invaded. And most of the humour comes from him. And what I really like about this episode, looking back, and it's makes the story much more stand out in my opinion, is that when you get David Walliams to play this kind of character, of course it's going to be a comic relief character. There's a lot of great funny dialogue. Like the motto of his planet is all worship the insert your name here. I love that line. And there's a bit where he's talking to another character and is saying stuff like, at these times I remember my old school motto, resistance is tiresome, or something like that. Again, another reference to Star Trek, however here it is kind of passable. But yeah, what's really great is that he starts off as a comic relief character, and you think, okay, he's starting up, he's a bit silly, he's a bit useless, and he's either going to end up dead or he's going to end up conquering his fears. But what the story actually does, I found really interesting. He basically becomes the dark voice in your head, the one that tells you to give up, just give in. If we just let the creature take this person, maybe it would let us go and set us all free. And the more time he talks like that, the more it continues on. The more our main characters, especially the Doctor, has this confrontation with him. And it really gets to the Doctor, especially how he's just simply not winning. He's giving these people a confidence. He's like, okay, there's these rooms feed on the people's fears. Of course, I mean, they show you your greatest fear. So stick to what you believe in. Stick on what you wish to keep you out of here. And we will get you out of this. But more and more throughout the episode, people get taken. There's a character, I can't remember his name, but he's a gambler. There's that great scene where he, in that room with all the mannequin dolls, what do you call them? The puppets. And he starts like acting crazy. Got to look here. There's a voice that's in your head. This is the chopper to chop off your head. Chop, chop, chop. Stuff like that. I really like his dialogue. So it is a bit corny. We only see this character when he's possessed, but it really works really well. But anyway, he gets taken. Howie, who after seeing his fear with the girls laughing at him, he gets taken. And Rita, she sees a room of her father shouting at her for getting a B on her maths test, and she has this fear of disappointing her father. And her scene when she gives in and she gets fed, she basically offers herself to the creature, which we learn at this point is a minotaur-like entity, similar to the Minons in the Horns of Nimon. Her scene is so well directed. I love that shot. You know, she's basically on the phone to the doctor, and she's like, "My faith is getting robbed here. Please, doctor, you know, if you can do anything, just remember me as I was. I don't want to be remembered as this person whose faith got robbed by this creature." And there's a shot there where it's kind of like in slow-mo, and she looks up and she's got this smile, and you just see the shadow of the Minotaur consume her as the Minotaur comes from the foreground of the screen. Just, it's really good. And I love this whole concept of the praise him line. There's a lot of scenes, especially with the Howie character, which comes off, in my opinion, absolutely hilarious. That bit where he's kind of like trying to stop himself, but he kind of throws it up. Praise him. That bit's really hilarious. But there's also some really great creepy moments. There's a great moment where Rita and the doctor are discussing something on the stairs, and Rita's just like, "You have a great god complex right there. You think instantly, right? Why you're going to save us all? You're going to get us all out of here. But who is it? Who are you to basically make it your job to save us all? Who are you to let us give us all of these ideas that we're going to get out of this alive?" And the doctor's just like, the universe is amazing, and a kind of way he feels guilty that bringing Amy and Rory into this situation, but he's going to get out of this, and he's going to take Rita with him. And then he basically clicks that there's cameras around, so he can use the cameras to see where the Minotaur is going. And when the doctor leaves the room, you get this shot from the 1970 camera point of view, and you just see Rita turn to the camera. She looks around to see if nobody's looking at him. She breathes in, and she just goes, "Praise him." And then she kind of like realizes what she's saying, and she's kind of like, "Well, snapped out of it," kind of idea. And that is just so creepy. I absolutely love that bit of the scene. But Rita gets taken. The doctor also as well sees his room. We don't actually see what's in his room. It's something that is, which I don't think was actually supposed to be a teaser or anything. It's supposed to be like a mystery, but nothing that's like setting up anything. It's something that like audience members can theorize, but it's nothing I don't believe was actually set up. I actually really liked the scene of the doctor. He opens the door, you hear the cloister bells, which kind of gives you an idea. We do actually learn what is in his room in time of the doctor, which was vastly disappointing. Matt Smith's had a theory that he saw all of his previous incarnations hanging from ropes, and then there's one more for this incarnation. Basically, the fear that his death is imminent. That is really disturbing. And everybody's got their theories. Everybody's got their ideas of what it is. My theory, my idea, what I like the Doctor's door to be, is him still on Gallifrey. That he lives a normal, mundane life on Gallifrey as just an average, normal Time Lord. Nothing unique, nothing special, nothing adventurous about him. That's what I think is in his door. That is such a cool idea, in my opinion. But yeah, that's something that gets teased up in this story. But again, like I said, it's not really a teaser. It's just sort of like a mystery which audience members can use their imaginations to theorize upon. It's a really really unique idea. But the Doctor traps the Minotaur at one point and discusses with it, what it's trying to be. We quickly learn that the Minotaur isn't actually a bad Minotaur of sorts. This is a prison ship. The Minotaur, and basically we learn that the Minotaur feeds off this faith system that, and it goes up to people and it feeds off them, and basically the creature of instinct, so he can't fight the urge when it's hungry, when it goes to when it feels or smells food or something, like its instincts kick over. but it doesn't want to be like this. It doesn't want to exist like this. And it actually wants to die. It actually wants to end its existence because it doesn't like hurting people. It doesn't like doing this. And the Doctor kind of relates to this. And there's great moments where, because the Minotaur for some reason doesn't get translated with the TARDIS telepathic circuits. So Matt Smith, as the Doctor, has to translate the Minotaur. And Matt Smith's face in these scenes are so full of pathos. I absolutely love it. I absolutely just find it absolutely, great. But like the more the episode goes on, more and more people die, to which by the end of it, it's only the Doctor, Amy, Rory, and Gibbous left. And when our characters are trying to come up with an idea, come and think of something, Gibbous is the one that's like, what's the point? You said you can save us, but now you can't. There's no way. We may as well just give up and die. And Amy's just like, have faith in him. The Doctor will get us out of this. He's always strong. He's always independent. But the Doctor cannot take it. He at one point he's like, he goes up to Gibbous and is just like, being scared, being afraid isn't a weakness. It's a defensive, and that's what makes you one of the most deadliest races, because you always survive. You're one of the oldest races in the universe, and now I can see why. But he says it with such a sly, something with such vulgar, that he absolutely kind of despises Gibbous' character. It's really interesting, You have this really weird, quirky character set up as a comic relief, and now he becomes the darker aspects revealing to the Doctor, and it clicks then that and a twist into the story. So spoiler warnings if you don't want the story spoiled. It turns out it's not fear that drags the creature. It's not fear that creates the food supply for the creature. It's faith. When people go into their rooms, they see the greatest fear. So what do? They go back into their minds, they go and relish into their faiths, into their belief systems, and that is what the creature feeds on. And essentially the Doctor learns that he's actually putting everybody in danger to feeding off. Before I get into anything, I just want to state that the concept of the fear rooms brings out a lot of great funny moments. One of my favourite moments in the story, I know I'm backtracking a bit, but one of my favourite bits in the story is somebody walks out of the room and they're fear, and it's a PE teacher, and he goes right up to the Doctor and it's just like, you've forgotten your PE kit again. That's it, you're doing it in your pants. And he goes back in the room and the Doctor and all our characters are like looking at each other and just like, what the hell was that all about? I absolutely love that scene. It's easily a highlight in Series 6. But anyway, getting back on track. So our characters are now running from the creature, because earlier on in the episode, Amy has actually seen her room. Also as well, in the story, one of the rooms is the Weeping Angels, which we first believe is Amy's room, but it turns out to be Gibbous' room. A lot of people have criticised the story as why Gibbous isn't taken full force, why he doesn't give in to the creature. Well, that is because he's always scared, he's always fearful, and he doesn't really have a faith system. Sure, he has a faith that somebody will one day come over and enslave him and take him under their wing, but it's not similar to Amy, which she believes that this man's going to come and save everything, and she will have everything. Gibbs is much more fearful, and his faith isn't as strong, which is why, despite he sees his fear of the Weeping Angels, he doesn't actually get taken over. I hope that clears something up if you were wondering about that. But this also is really good, because this actually introduces Rory to the Weeping Angels in the TV series without establishing that he had previously met them, because there's nothing in the story that indicates, that he hasn't met them before. This is great continuity for us, because Rory and Amy have met. Rory has met the Weeping Angels in 2 novels. One we've actually talked about in Magic of the Angels, and in another BBC novel, Touched by an Angel. So some great continuity tidying right there. So yeah, but Amy had seen her room earlier on in the episode, and now she is basically getting possessed. She is calling out to praise him. I love that scene in which the Doctor and Rory realise what's going on. That's a great scene. So they're running away from the creature that can hear Amy praise it and is going up basically for the feast. And they basically find themselves into Amy's room, to which Amy finds that her fear is actually staying, being the girl who waiting for the Doctor, nobody to come back and return. That's her greatest fear. And so the Doctor basically tries to encourage her that he has failed her. He has basically led her to her death. He doesn't want Amy because, you know, they're friends and stuff. It's because the Doctor's vain and that he needed someone he can boast to. And he's now just led Amy to her death because the Doctor just wanted to show off, which then starves the creature and essentially killing it. And there's a bit then where the Doctor translates his last words. I really like the comparisons between the creature and the Doctor. However, the line which the creature says, I wasn't talking about myself, he clearly indicated, you know, he's talking then to the about the Doctor. I felt like that was a bit too much. I think they should have left it a bit ambiguous. And even if he was talking about him, the Doctor can see himself in this story. But let's talk about that ending. Let's talk about the concept of the Doctor destroying Amy's faith in him, and that starves the creature. It doesn't really work. For one, it is way too short. When this scene happens, the story actually only has about 5 minutes left of episode screen time. It is way too short to establish that Amy is allowed to lose faith in the Doctor. It's only basically summarised within a speech. And when the scene does end and when the creature is dead, the relationship between the Doctor and Amy has not changed at all. Amy still seems to be very bubbly and very friendly with the Doctor, and it's only really the Doctor that pushes Amy away. There should have been a much more neutral idea to Amy leaving in this story, because in this story, Amy forcefully gets, not thrown out, but she is forcefully left the TARDIS by the Doctor, who basically establishes, you know, his faith in him basically got her killed, and almost got her killed. So I'm going to leave you go before, as you're still breathing, you're still alive, end on a happier note, rather than me watching over you, over your gravestone. Whilst Amy, you know, sad as it can't end like this, but the Doctor's like, I must, you know, I have to, and goodbye. And that is the God complex. And that ending was really well handled, very well, great. But I feel like the story doesn't really justify it. And I really like that ending, I really like that concept, but that, I feel like in the episode it didn't really build up that well, to the point where the only real build up to this idea, this concept, is only at the very end of the story. It doesn't really hold up. So yeah, that's the God complex. Overall, the story itself is an absolute mess of a story. There's the concept of the rooms and the terrifyingness is all over the place, and the fears don't really play a part into the story. Characters just kind of see their fears, and then they basically get mind controlled into praising the creature. Their fears don't actually play a part in their character or in the story. So that's kind of strange. However, there's so much weirdness in this story. There's so much great visual styling by Nick Horan, and so much great witty dialogue by Toby Whitehouse, and some great character moments, some great character beats, that I really enjoyed the story, and it's actually one of the highlights of the 11th Doctor era. Sure, it has its flaws, but overall, and an interesting villain, I feel like the story does actually hold up very well, with the exception of that gorilla at the end. That gorilla sucks. I can't believe I can't believe they got away with that. That was just... Oh, that was embarrassing. But anyway, that's the God complex. So join me next time where the Doctor will be meeting an old friend of his as he gets transformed into an ood as he tries to work out how does the Doctor time travel. As the Doctor bumps into his old friend, Albert Einstein. So join me next time for Death is the Only Answer. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!